In today's lesson, we're looking at a procedure to help you improve your score in OET Listening Part B. Hello and welcome to OET with Alex. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on Listening Part B. We're going to talk about what Listening Part B assesses, what it involves. We're going to look at a procedure that you can use to make sure that you can maximize your scores so you can improve the score you're currently getting in Listening Part B. We're also going to look at a sample test and look at 3 questions from that sample test to show you how we can use this procedure in practice. So make sure you keep on watching right till the end so that you can see that and you can get your best possible score in the OET exam. Now, before we dive in and look at that, remember that I run online preparation courses for OET with Atlantic Language. The next course is starting on the 29th of March. All of the details are in the in the description of this video. Please check it out if you're interested. Okay, so in Listening Part B of the OET exam, you will listen to 6 recorded extracts. For example, team briefings, handovers, healthcare professional patient dialogues. And you'll answer 1 multiple choice question for each extract. A lot of people find this part of the exam really difficult because they don't know what to expect. You've got 6 different dialogues or recordings, and each one can be very different from a different aspect of healthcare. So it's really important that we use the information that we're given in the question to help us try to predict what the conversation is going to be about. And that's one part of our procedure as well. Before we get into the procedure, let's talk about what Part B actually assesses. So this is from OET, and they say that it assesses your ability to identify the detail, gist, opinion or purpose of short extracts from the healthcare workplace. Okay, so we've got these 4 things that it's testing: detail, gist, opinion or purpose, but actually I think we can narrow it down to focusing on just 2 of these, and that is gist and detail, because opinion could maybe be gist, could maybe be detail, purpose is more likely to be gist. So actually each question is going to be testing one of these things. So if we remember what this means, gist and detail, so detail means that it's going to be one specific part of the recording that it's testing. So it's going to be a paraphrase probably, or a phrase that is going to be testing you on. Whereas gist is going to be about either the full recording, the purpose of the recording, for example, or a couple of sentences. It could be about gist as well. So, it's really important as part of a procedure to decide what type of question we think this might be, and that's really going to help us decide if we're listening for one specific part of the recording or if we're listening to a bigger part or the full recording. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through the procedure before we practice it with an actual sample test from OET. So the first thing in the procedure is to look at the question and think if it's likely to be testing detail or gist. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do when we look at the questions. Next, we need to look at the information and think about who is talking and what the purpose is. So who is involved in this conversation, or who's talking in this monologue, it could be as well, and what's the purpose of this, what's the point of it. That's really going to help us if we can decide that before we actually start listening. Okay, and in the next stage of the procedure, we start to look at the options that we have in multiple choice. So what we want to decide here is what gives us the key message in these things. So we're identifying keywords, which is going to be very useful in specific detail questions, because the keywords in the options are the things which are likely to be paraphrased and listened we need to listen for them. If it's gist, then it's going to give us the full meaning. So identifying the key message in each of the options is still useful for us. Okay, so after we've done that, we're going to listen and choose the correct answer. So I'm going to put up an example, a sample OET test. It's from the website. It's sample test 2 from listening. And feel free to pause this video and go and find it. The link is in the description to this as well, so we can do it together. So we're going to talk through 3 of the 6 questions here, and also look at the tape script so we can identify the answer. We can identify if it's a gist question or if it's a detailed question, and see how this procedure works in practice. So feel free to get it, and we'll do it together. We'll look at the first 3 questions, and then you can do the other 3 questions and further tests as well to see how well this procedure works. Okay, so here we have listening part B of sample test 2 from OET's website, which is free to access if you want to follow the link in the description. And let's try to follow this procedure to see how well it works. So as you remember, with the procedure, the first thing is to look at the question and try to decide if it's testing gist or if it's testing specific information. So let's look at number 25 and decide, okay? So you hear an optometrist talking to a patient who's trying contact lenses for the first time. What is the patient concerned about? So just from this part here, from the question, the information in the question, can we decide if it's going to be gist or if it's going to be specific information? Well, the first thing is the patient's concerned about something, so it's probably about one thing. So I would say this is probably about specific information. It's not always possible to tell, but it's good to have an idea before you listen to the recording. Okay, so we think this is probably specific information. Okay, next thing is to look at this information here and to decide who is talking and what the purpose is. So right away, we know it's an optometrist, we know it's a patient, and we know that the patient is concerned about something. So if we want to know who's talking, it's the optometrist with the patient, and they're talking about a concern that the patient has. So right away, we've got it quite clear in our head what we're listening for. We're already setting the scene. We're already predicting about what it could be about. They're trying contact lenses for the first time. So we start to think about what kind of concerns they might have related to trying these contact lenses for the first time. Okay, and the next thing is to look at the options. So here we have A, B, and C, and we need to decide what is the key message here. What for each option? What's the key word, or sometimes words as well, that's really going to help us focus on what we're listening for. So obviously in A, it's blurred. That's something that we have to listen for. So if it's we know this is probably specific information. We know this is a key word, so we should be listening for paraphrases for this. In part B, the key word is soreness. And then in C, option C, the keyword is remove. So we've already done, this only takes, obviously it takes longer when I'm talking you through it, but this only takes a second when we're actually doing the test. So we've got a good idea of who the conversation involves, what it's about, and then we've picked our keywords here already. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll now listen to this one recording and we'll try to get the correct answer, and then we'll look at the tape script as well so you can see where the key answer actually is. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead now and listen and try to get the correct answer for number 25. I'm not giving any preparation time for this, so the recording is just going to start when I press play.
Now, you've had the lenses in for a few minutes. How are they feeling?
Not bad. I thought I'd feel them actually touching my eyes, that they'd be sore or prickly, but I can't feel much at all. My eyes do feel a bit watery, though.
It's okay. You've just used too much solution. Now, in a few minutes, I'll get you to try taking them out and inserting them again by yourself.
I had no trouble taking them out earlier, but I'm not confident about putting them in. I worry I'll press too hard.
That's unlikely to happen.
Things look rather distorted, though. I can't make out the letters on that chart.
Any of them?
Those lower down.
let's give things another minute to settle down.
Okay, so did you hear the correct answer? What did you go for? The correct answer in this one is A, his blurred vision. Okay, so now let's have a look at the tape script, which is a really useful tool in listening, I have to say, to check the answer. And also we can have a look for the other two answers which weren't correct, because that's really going to help us understand where these options come from. Because remember, the other options, what we call distractors, are always based in the text. So there's always going to be something about these in the text, but there's also going to be something to show you that these are not correct. Okay. So here we have the tape script for the recording we just listened to. Okay. If you want, you can pause the video at this point and have a read through it. But very quickly, you could listen to this. Is good practice as well to listen and read at the same time. If you're having problems with listening, then that's going to be a very good idea for you to do. Okay, so we know that the answer there was his blurred vision, okay, and that's something he's concerned about. And the key thing in the tape script here is this distorted. So this is a paraphrase of blurred vision. Things look rather distorted, though, his blurred vision. So we can see this is the key part that gives us the answer, and this is why it's a specific information question as well, because it's just testing your understanding of that. Okay, the other things that he said, the other option, sorry, B was soreness in his eyes. He does mention, they talk about being sore. He said, that they'd be sore or prickly, but I can't feel much at all. So he hasn't got any soreness. So that part there is key to show us that option B is not the correct answer. And option C was how to remove the lenses. He says he's not confident about putting them in, and he had no trouble taking them out. So this part shows us that C is not the correct answer, and this part here really is the key that shows us that the correct answer in this case was A. Okay, so now let's go on and look at the next question. Okay, so moving on to recording 26, question 26, and the recording to go with it. So let's follow our procedure again for this. So first of all, we're going to look at this information here and try to figure out if this is probably testing gist or specific information. You hear a nurse asking a colleague for help with a patient. Why does the nurse need help? So again, this strikes me as probably being specific information, because it's not asking about the purpose of the speech or the dialogue. It's focusing on one specific part. So it's probably specific information in this case. So who is involved in this conversation? It's a nurse and a colleague. So it's two healthcare professionals. We know that as well. And also what the purpose is. So the purpose, why does the nurse needs help, and why? So this is all key information that we should be focusing on when we look at this question to start with. Okay, let's look at the options here and decide what is the key information in each one. So in A, the patient's condition has deteriorated. Okay, deteriorated. When we see a key word, start thinking about paraphrases for that keyword. Deteriorated, how could we say that in a different way? It got worse. Okay, so that's maybe something that could be paraphrased, especially when we're thinking about a specific detailed question. The patient is worried about a procedure. Keyword here is worried. Again, we should be listening for paraphrases here. And the patient is reporting increased pain levels. So I'm going to choose these two words here and say increased pain levels are the important things here. Okay, so let's have a listen to this recording and see if you can get the correct answer. Again, I'll start it just at the beginning of that and we can listen.
Kathy, could you help me with the patient in bed 103? The woman who had surgery 2 days ago.
Oh, yes, she's due for discharge today, isn't she? Does her pain relief need topping up again? I thought she wasn't very comfortable this morning.
Oh, she's on a reasonably low dose, but she's coping. She needs her chest drains removing, though, and she's got herself into a bit of a state.
Ah, well, that's a two-person job anyway, so I'll come with you. Has the consultant seen her? I know there was some concern yesterday about her condition and the level of the fluids draining into the bags.
Oh, he's cleared her for removal of them today, but I think some reassurance might be needed first.
Right. I might just check her analgesia and give her more before we go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so what did you go for in this one? The correct answer in this case is B. Remember, in the exam, you've got to fill that in like that, something like that, but I'm just taking it so it's clearer here. Okay, so the correct answer was B. The patient is worried about a procedure. Again, let's have a look at the tape script that we have here. It's very useful to do it. Feel free to pause this video and read it before we start talking about it, okay? But the key thing here was that she's worried about a procedure, okay? In this sentence here, she needs her chest drains removing though, and she's got herself into a bit of a state. So this, she's got herself into a bit of a state, is really the key information here that shows us she's worried about the procedure being the fact that her chest drains need removing. So that's the part that gives us the correct answer here. And again, this is a specific detail question here. Okay. Also in the text, there's stuff about her condition hasn't deteriorated. She's been cleared for removal, things like that, and about increased pain levels. Can we see anything like that? It says, does her pain relief need topping up? She's on a reasonably low dose, but she's coping, so she doesn't need more. She's not reporting pain increase. So that part there shows us that C is wrong, and we know that she's been cleared for removal, so she's not deteriorating as well. She's also cleared for discharge as well, which shows us that A is incorrect, and this part here shows us that B is the correct answer. Did you get it right? Let me know in the comments. Okay, and on to question 27. This is the last one we're going to do together, and then the other 3 questions you can try by yourself. Okay, so again, with our procedure, let's decide if it's testing detail or gist. You hear a senior nurse talking about a new initiative that has been introduced on her ward. What problem was it intended to solve? Okay, so in this one, what problem was it intended to solve? It's a new initiative. This suggests to me that it's going to be gist, and that this is everything that the recording is going to be about, because it's all about this new initiative and the problem it was going to solve. So I would say this is probably going to be a gist question. And we've had 2 specific detail questions, so it's good to look at the other type as well. So who's talking in this one? A senior nurse. So we know this one is in fact a monologue. Okay, we need to prepare ourselves for that as well. Everything we can do to think about how the recording is going to be before we start listening is going to help. And the purpose is about the new initiative and the problem that it was going to solve. So these are really the key things that we need to focus on when we're listening. Okay, if we notice here as well, if we look, the first thing we look at when we look at these 3 options, is they're longer than the previous 2. If they're longer options, this would suggest that it's going to be a gist question as well, because it's about more of the recording. So that's something to bear in mind as well. It's still useful, even though we think it's a gist question, to identify the key message, the key information in each option, because that's going to help us get the correct answer. So in A, patient's confusion over information given by doctor. So I think here, confusion over information is key. Relatives not being able to discuss issues with the doctor. So relatives and not discuss. I think those things are important. And you see here, we're underlining a lot more things here to give us the key message. That again suggests to us that this is going to be a gist question. And C is patients not discussing all their concerns when meeting the doctor. So patients not discussing concerns, okay, when meeting the doctor. So let's have a listen to this and see if we can get the correct answer.
Question 27. You hear a senior nurse talking about a new initiative that has been introduced on her ward. Now read the question.
One of our key priorities is improving communications between staff, patients and patients' families. We recently introduced a scheme called Dear Doctor, which involves giving each patient a card where they can make a note of any questions or concerns that they themselves have. They can also talk to their families during visiting time, or even on the phone, and see if there's anything else they'd like to add. The cards are then collected and given to the doctor before the ward round. We're really pleased with the response. Patients used to say that they only thought of the things they felt they needed to discuss when it was too late, so the cards give them a better chance to bring up whatever's on their minds. In fact, it's been so successful that we're going to roll it out on all wards in the hospital.
Okay, so what did you go for in this one? If you said C, then you are correct. That was the answer. Patients not discussing all their concerns when meeting the doctor. So let's go over to the tape script for this one. Here it is here. So if we look at what gives us the answer here, you'll see that a lot of the text includes information about this, okay? So, a patient, a card, we've got concerns, the cards are collected and given to the doctor. All of these things, they only thought of things they felt they needed to discuss when it was too late after they met the doctor. So the cards give a better chance, and it's been really successful. So, Dear Doctor, all these parts of the text show us that patients not discussing all their concerns when meeting the doctor. So you can see it's not one specific part. If we had to choose one specific part, then I guess, we would go with this part here, but it's still more than the previous answers for specific information where we were looking at 1, 2 words, something like that, okay? If we try to find the distractors, the answers that are wrong, so patients' confusion over information given by the doctor. So did we see anything there related to that? Have a quick look through it. Pause it if you want. Okay. And can we see anything there? We can't really see anything related to that one. And relatives not being able to discuss issue with the doctors. So it does mention relatives, but it's families and the patients talking to their families about these things as well, okay, before they report these things to the doctor. Okay, but the key thing really we're looking at is this, followed by all these different things in the recording, which show us that the recording as a whole, the gist question here, and the answer is C. Okay, so using the tape script is a really good tool. It can be more difficult to find an exact answer when you're looking at gist questions, but that tells us it's a gist. You're trying to understand the general meaning of it. Okay, so in this test, this part of the test, part B, you have another 3 questions there. I'm going to let you try them on your own. And as I said before, please let me know in the comments how you get on, because I'm curious to see if this procedure helps you. I hope it does. It's helped a lot of my students before. Okay, did you do the other 3 questions? Let me know in the comments of this video how you get on and how you find this procedure if you think it's helping you. It's helped a lot of students that I've worked with before, so I'm sure it can work for you as well. So thanks for watching today. Please check out my other channel, Learn English with Alex, which has general English videos and live lessons across all different levels, but for OET there are a lot of advanced lessons which might be useful for you or people you know, so please check it out. Also, follow me on social media. Feel free to send me a message with any questions that you have, and as I said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.